Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers report, the Niners getting a big addition back to their defensive unit going into the NFL playoffs. More on that in a moment. Deebo Samuel in the 2023 season did what? And Pete Carroll out with the Seattle Seahawks. That news breaking on Wednesday. I'm going to react to that because I have a lot of thoughts. Let's start off with literally and figuratively a big addition set to return to this Niners defense. That is Arik Armstead returning to practice this week, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan. Hasn't played since all the way back in Week 13 against the Philadelphia Eagles because of plantar fasciitis in his foot, as well as a nagging knee issue. Here's what Shanahan had to say about his very stout and good defensive tackle. I just know it's his foot and it's his knee. I don't know how to pronounce that word you just said. Yeah, Kyle, I gotcha. It's plantar fasciitis. He's doing better. Shanahan continued. He looked good today, and that was the test, and that's why we're going to get him into practice on Thursday, and hopefully it goes well, and we'll get him in a little bit on Friday. So, of course, Shanahan saying that a little bit earlier this week, and look, for all of the casuals out there who thinks that Armstead is overrated, that he's not worth $17 million per year, stop disrespecting a very, very good player who means so much to the San Francisco 49ers defense. Armstead's value is paramount to the success of what has been one of the best defenses in football over the last 4 to 5 years. He's a great run defender. He provides a great interior pass rush. He takes attention away from Nick Bosa so that Bosa isn't swarmed with a bunch of double teams, and he's not chipped by running backs coming out of the backfield. Armstead has massive size. That's why he takes up so much real estate and demands so much attention, because with that bull rush, with that swim move, he can get past you very quickly at 6'7", 290 pounds. And Armstead is a smart player and a team leader. That's why he's one of the captains for this team, and his impact goes far beyond the stat sheet. With his versatility, with his smarts, and his ability to take over the game. And him and Javon Hargrave formed to be one of the best defensive tackle duos in the NFL. And before Armstead went out after that Eagles game, he was having a really good 2023 season. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 81.8. A pass rushing grade, elite, at 85.1. I think he's a better run defender than what PFF gives him credit for, checking in there with the grade of just 59.8, but 5 sacks and 42 pressures this year. The thing with Arik Armstead, too, this has been a consistent theme for him throughout his entire career, since being a mid-first round pick out of Oregon, and when he's had opportunities to shine on the big stage, he's done that. He shows up when it matters. In the last 3 playoff seasons, we're talking 2021, we're talking 2022, as well as in 2019, he has totaled in 9 playoff games, 7 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and 5 tackles for loss. He even said during his podcast that he loves playing in the playoffs because that's when he plays his best football. A lot more to get to here on the show, but first, a programming reminder. The 49ers do not play in the wild card round. They were too good to play in the wild card round this year. They got that first round bye and home field advantage going through Levi Stadium in the NFC playoff bracket. But that doesn't mean we're not going to be doing a watch party this weekend. I will be live for Packers Cowboys. The game begins 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 p.m. Pacific for those of you out on the West Coast, because we have people watching the program from worldwide. Hope to see you there. We're still going to have a Super Chat giveaway item and a Super Chat MVP item. And our watch party, going to be the same type of watch party that we always do for Niners games, but for a game that has a lot of playoff implications in the NFC. Today's sponsor is Gametime. If you want to go to a Niner game throughout the NFC playoffs, you want to go to a Golden State Warriors game, college football, college basketball, Major League Baseball, you want to go to a comedy show, a theater event, or a concert, because I'm a big comedy show and music guy, make sure you download the Gametime app. It is a free download, and when you use the code Niners Chat, you get $20 off your purchase. That's correct. You use the code Niners Chat, you get $20 off your purchase. What I love about this app, you can see where you'll be sitting, the vantage point from your seats, and the price point for where you'll be sitting. So you're not going to get screwed over by some of these shady ticketing apps where you could have an altered view from your seats. You actually get to see what you'll be seeing from those seats. They also have these flash deals where simply you just swipe and you're able to get in on the action for a very low price point and save money using the code NinersChat. You also use that code NinersChat so that Gametime knows that Chat Sports sent you. Next up, Deebo Samuel this year did what? Deebo is the second player in the history of the NFL in his first 5 seasons in the National Football League to have 4,000 yards receiving and more than 1,000 yards rushing. The only other player to do that over the course of NFL history is Charlie Taylor. And you look at how these two players fared. A cool story here is that Kyle Shanahan gave Deebo Samuel an opportunity to surpass that 1,000-yard mark in the regular season finale against the Los Angeles Rams by giving him a carry. And what a first 5 years it's been for Deebo. Whoa! More than 4,100 receiving yards, more than 1,000 rushing yards. He leads the NFL since getting drafted out of South Carolina in that 2019 draft class alongside Nick Bosa. A hell of a first 2 selections, by the way, by John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan in yards picked up after the catch. And very rarely do you see a player with this physical makeup who's this fast, who can run you over, who can catch the football like he does, who you can give the ball to on jet sweeps, but also hand it off to, give him a pitch. And he's just a dynamic playmaker who, as I like to say, is one of one. And after a slow start to the year, Deebo finished it pretty strong. Alongside Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle, all those players had more than 1,000 all-purpose yards in 2023. 60 catches, 892 yards through the air with 7 touchdowns. Then he was able to add a lot more touchdowns on the ground and able to get past that 1,000-yard total mark. Now let's round out the show with my reaction on Pete Carroll basically getting fired by the Seattle Seahawks. When I read his statement, when he said, "I'm excited for what's next, I'm fired up," I didn't take that as if he's done. I look at it as Seattle not happy with the results and that organization trending downward over the last couple of years. They kind of pushed him out the door. And to me, that's a firing. I love my bosses, James and Brett here at Chat Sports. I love working alongside Trizzy Trace, but if all of them together were kind of pushing me out of the door here at Chat Sports and they didn't want me to host the 49ers Report any longer, that would tell me I'm basically getting canned. So it was Adam Schefter on Wednesday afternoon who broke the news. A shocker in Seattle. Pete Carroll expected to be out as the Seahawks head coach. Per sources, he still could remain in the organization, but not as a head coach. He is going to remain with the organization in an advisory role. But at 70 years old, Pete Carroll has a lot of energy. And that's something that I really respect about him. And I just don't know if he's done with this football life. And on the same day that Pete Carroll had his 14-year run end with Seattle, Nick Saban retired as well as the head coach of Alabama football. Ian Rappaport, with the leading candidate here, looks as though it's going to be Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, who could quickly be considered as a strong candidate. He took over for Gus Bradley for that Legion of Boom defense back in 2013, was the defensive coordinator for 2 years, was Dan Quinn, before he went to the Atlanta Falcons, and we know what happened with that 28-3 Super Bowl deficit or lead that turned into a deficit for Atlanta. Yes, when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator in that Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. Here's what Jody Allen, the chairwoman of the Seahawks, had to say about Pete Carroll. After thoughtful meetings and careful consideration for the best interest of the franchise, we have amicably agreed with Pete Carroll that his role will evolve from head coach to remain with the organization as an advisor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever get this message from your employer, they're basically saying, we don't want you any longer. And what a run it was for Pete Carroll. Niner fans know all about that. Really turned that organization around after Mike Holmgren. First 2 years coming from USC, the Seattle Seahawks went 7-9, 7-9, and then they really started to hit their gear. Won the Super Bowl in 2014, made it to back-to-back Super Bowls. It probably should have been 2 consecutive Super Bowl victories, but they only won in 2014 against the Denver Broncos. Following year, they lost to the New England Patriots. But as you can see, after a great run from 2012 through 2020, in which the Seahawks never had a below 500 season, after that 2020 season, Trace, that's when the record kind of started to go downhill a little bit. Good year in 2020, 12-4, but then 7-10. 9-8 made the playoffs last year, but swept by San Francisco, got dominated in the wild card round, and in 2023, another 9-8 season. Seahawks controlled their own destiny at the end of the year, but not able to get into the playoffs. That loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the second to last week of the regular season really doomed them. And this is the end of an era, and for so long, Pete Carroll and the Seahawks dominated Jim Harbaugh, dominated Kyle Shanahan up until the last 2 years, where the Niners now have a 5-game winning streak over the Seahawks. Carroll goes down with the record of 133-89-1 as the Seahawks head coach. NFL 2010's all-decade team. He's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer and won the franchise's only Super Bowl in Super Bowl 38. I don't know if this is great news for the 49ers. You might be saying this is great news for San Francisco that Pete Carroll is out. But I think that the Seahawks can get a really, really good head coach. Are they going to go offense? Are they going to go defense? Some people were saying they should give a lot of money to Jim Harbaugh. That would scare me because I think Jim Harbaugh is absolutely an elite coach. But I have a feeling they might go defense once again. And Pete Carroll was a defensive mind. I think a reason why the Seahawks are moving on is because while he's a defensive mind, they haven't been good on the defensive side of the football. And that could be a key component in this Seahawks search. Jeremy Fowler with a good note here. How are the Seahawks going to compete with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay? Because Seattle 4-10 in their last 14 games against the Rams and Niners. Either get the right defensive guy to combat them or the right offensive guy to keep up. So what is going to be the organizational strategy here? I like the Seahawks roster. They have a really good general manager. They have 2 really good tackles. They have a good wide receiving core. They have some good young players on that defense, especially in that secondary. And if they knock it out of the park with their new head coach, the Niners might have a challenger once again in the NFC West. Feel free to contact me on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram at Chase_Senior, and email me, chase@chatsports.com. All ways to contact me right here, and I look forward to hearing from the faithful.